Welcome to the Cornbread and Kool-Aid podcast. My name is Demetrius. This podcast is for fans of the Detroit Lions. Sometimes we do other sports. We may do some in the off season around some of the other teams, but this is chiefly a Lions podcast. And even non-fans of the Detroit Lions who might want to chime in. We generally come at you after the games, but we're in the off season now. So we will come to you at all hours of the day or night. This one wasn't planned. I was listening to some sports talk radio this week, and I just heard too much crap that was bothering me. And I said, forget it. I'll drop one at lunchtime on Friday. Real life sometimes interferes with plans. So this was the hour that I had. And so this was the hour that I took. If you do like the podcast, it is appreciated. Please drop a like, a heart, a thumbs up, whatever it is you do on whatever platform you're doing this on. It's always appreciated. We always acknowledge the super producer extraordinaire, the Godfather, Mike Ward. So again, like I said, sometimes we plan these and they're structured during the season. In the off season, I might just be inspired to drop one Friday at lunchtime because that's how I am. I can't always take it, but I haven't been on since the NFC Championship game, and there were people hitting me up saying, what are you doing, man? Where you been, kind of thing. And I think the narrative was that I was still somewhere crying, right? The idea was that I hadn't gotten over it yet, and I told some people that I didn't watch the Super Bowl, and they're like, what? And I gave it some thought. It wasn't what I think most people believe it to be. It wasn't even really about the Lions. Maybe to a degree it was, but not as much. It's just that things changed, right? Historically, the Super Bowl was a game that was cool to watch. There was no interest. There was nothing invested. There was no emotion attached to it. And the emotion really wasn't attached to it last Sunday. It wasn't sadness or being bothered about the Lions or still hurt or anything. It was none of that. It was simply, I didn't care. I didn't care. Now, my lack of caring can almost certainly be tied directly to the fact that I felt like the Lions should have been there. But it certainly wasn't some sadness or over emotional, I can't watch it. I found a Netflix show about a female Colombian drug dealer from the 80s, and I thought it was interesting. So I chose that instead. We do need to talk about the offseason, though, because we're here and there's a lot to talk about. And like I said earlier, there was a lot of talk this week on sports talk radio. And for the record, I love sports talk radio. I listen to a particular station in Detroit almost every day. But I don't always agree with everything they say. I don't always agree with every host on that station. And more than anything, I don't agree with a lot of people that call in. So today's show will have a large degree of that. There are people who believe I have some fundamental issue with sports talk radio, or I think I'm better. No, I don't. No, I'm just a regular fan who has my opinion. I think that today will be heavy on that because I heard a lot of things that bothered me. Like I said, I didn't plan to do a pod for another 2 weeks. And I just heard too many things that bothered me. So what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about free agency, right? Which is critical. Probably before that, just like the high level of what I think the Lions are and how they move, how they've moved in the 3 years this regime has been in place, because I think that's important. But I do want to talk specifically about what do they need? Some of their own free agents. Who do you bring back? Who do you not? Some outside free agents that you will hear about but aren't realistic, and some that might be realistic. I might touch on the draft a little, but it's too early, right? I don't know. My draft thoughts need to be informed by what the Lions did in free agency, need to be informed by the combine. I'm not ready to get deep into draft yet, and there could be some trades, I guess. There are players that people say might get traded. I don't know. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about that. So yeah, so free agents, both their own and others, potential trades, and then sort of put maybe what the draft will shape up to be depending on what they do. But I want to start with the how. By the how, I mean how they've done business, how they have how they have built this culture, run this team for 3 years, because there are a lot of people who just want them to go for it. And I talked a little bit about sports talk radio. There's that group, those people, some work there, some call, believe, okay, you have built this thing, now go for it. Go do this thing and go for it. And yeah, I don't agree, right? Predictably, I don't agree. I think that if you go off what they say, you can be misled. And I'm not trying to insult anyone, but my feeling about what sports talk radio is as an entity, and people get fooled. They think all those dudes are experts. All those dudes somehow know more than we do because they talk on the radio for a living. Those guys have journalism degrees. They read the same stuff on the internet we read. They listen to the same stuff we listen to. I don't know that most of them are automatically more qualified than we are. And I've heard too many of their opinions be dead ass wrong to believe they're experts. And that's not meant to throw shade. That's meant to establish that's not their job, by the way. Their job is to get you to call the radio station and sit on hold for 20 minutes so you can talk for 2 minutes. That taps into a certain kind of fan, a certain kind of person. And to do that, they'll say whatever they have to say. They don't care about being objective. Some of them don't care about being right. They care about pissing you off, usually. Sometimes it's making you feel good. But generally, it's pissing you off, so you'll call into the radio station and say whatever they need you to say, because that's their job, and they're really good at it, by the way. So I get what they do. This week, I got hit with a bunch of it, and I was like, what the hell? What the hell? This topic, this subject, the Lions and where the Lions go now, was a big deal this week. And like I said, I get what they do, and I listen to a ton of it. There's a lot of good information. There's a lot of good opinions. I like it, right? But their thoughts are now, you got to go for it. You got to do this. And if you were a real championship team, you would do this. And this is what good organizations do. And most of it's just crap to get you to call the radio station. And I hate it. I hate that part of it, right? I have a different opinion, and that's all this is. And there are people that might agree with me, and there are those who won't. And I'm good with all that. I think you keep doing what you're doing. That's it. This ain't rocket science. You keep doing what you're doing. You spent 3 years building a roster and building a culture. One of those is Brad Holmes. One of them is Dan Campbell. And to in my opinion, support what I'm saying, Brad Holmes was voted Executive of the Year this year by might have been AP or someone. He won the award, Executive of the Year. So by every objective measure, Brad Holmes is really good at his job. Can we agree on that? So let's baseline this on, I believe Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell are really good at their job. Okay? Executive of the Year award supports that for Brad Holmes. Dan Campbell finished third in Coach of the Year. And I have no problem with that, because Stefanski did a great job in Cleveland and DeMeco Ryans was fantastic down in Houston. I don't have a problem with that. But being voted number 3 out of 32 objectively suggests Dan Campbell's really good at his job. So if we baseline this whole conversation with Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell are really good at their job, stop there. That's what I'm working on, right? That's where I'm coming from. I'm looking at a team that in 2021 finished 3-13-1. Nobody calls that good. We know what that was, but we're honest enough. I've been doing this podcast for 5 years. That team didn't have any talent. I get it. But that team in 21 was 3-13-1. In 22, they improved to 9-8. And this past season, 2023, they improved to 12-5. Now, what I do for a living, my real life work, this is my hobby. My real life work, there are 2 words in what I do. They're called continuous improvement. I'm a CI guy. That's what I do. That's what I do for a living. That's what I get paid by a company who thinks I'm good at it to do it. By every definition, going from 3-13-1 to 9-8 to 12-5, that's CI. That's what continuous improvement is. We can debate how they got there. We can debate the things they did. But I just told you, Brad Holmes was Executive of the Year in 2023. Dan Campbell finished 3rd in Coach of the Year, right? So we see what they're doing. Why? So why then? And if you want to make an argument that it was easy to go from bad to okay. I won't disagree with you. This is what I do for a living. If you go on a 1 to 10 scale, going from 0 to 5 is easy. It's what we call low-hanging fruit. It's easy. It's doing simple stuff better. It's doing stuff you never did before, starting to do it, and stopping doing the crap you did. It's easy if you commit to it. Going from 5 to 8, which is what the 9 and 8 team getting to 12 and 5 is, going from good or okay to very good, that's harder. That takes a commitment, that takes strategy, that takes work, right? And I don't think we can disagree that being one half of football away from the Super Bowl is very good. So if I'm using the wrong terms that are offending you, okay. And I'm a little bit animated just because of the crap I was hearing all week on Sports Talk Radio. And getting from good to very good is hard. But from crappy to good is this gap. From good to very good is this gap. From here to here is a smaller gap. There's less work to do is my point. And we have one of the best to do it in a GM chair. And we have one of the best in the league doing it in the coach's chair. Why do we think now we should listen to some dude on the radio who says, this is what you should do? Why do we think they should deviate from what they do? I don't understand that. And that's a lot of me. What I do for a living is you develop a strategy, you develop a plan, and then you execute it. And what I see is that over 3 years, these two guys, and it's more guys, it's more people than that. It's players, it's other people in the front office. It's Sheila, right? They are executing perfectly to go from 3-13-1 to 12-5 and one half of football away from playing in the Super Bowl is exceptional. Go back and look at the history of teams that have done it. You're not going to find that many. This turnaround is exceptional. It means they're doing something right. And I know what my podcast is called. I know I eat Lions cornbread and drink Kool-Aid. I know that I am team friendly, Mr. Optimism, go Lions all the time. I'm not the dude that calls in and yells and wants everybody fired. I'm not the guy who thinks he knows more than Brad Holmes or Dan Campbell. That dude's on the radio. You can call and listen to him. It's fine. Don't do what you've been doing. Stay smart. Keep doing what you're doing. That's my answer. It's not cute. It's not sexy. It's not fun. I'm going to go over a bunch of ideas that I have. But at the end of the day, I'm going to come back to just keep doing what you're doing. Right? And if you tell me, oh, they got to make all these changes because what they're doing isn't working, then I don't know what you're watching. Because I know what I watched in 2021. And that was a bad football team with a bad culture. And I know what I just watched this year. I watched one of the best 4 or 5 teams in football, one half away from getting to the Super Bowl. And I'm going to say that a lot, by the way. It's important that I keep reminding myself and others that our football team was one half away from going to the Super Bowl. Now, that half was their fault. I'm not blaming anybody else. But I don't understand the idea of you see a process, you see a system that's clearly working, it's clearly effective. And by every objective measure, it's working. I don't know why we would change anything. Is it patience? Well, we're fans. We're always impatient. That's what we do. That's what we're supposed to do. But when some dude on the radio just says, they got to go all in, no, they don't. That's short-sighted and it's illogical. Right? If you look at, because here it is. Do you want a team that will sell out now to get to one Super Bowl? Even if I guarantee you they'll win it, to get one Super Bowl, is that what you want? Or would you prefer a team that is going to be sustainably competitive, Super Bowl level competitive for 5, 6, 7 years? Because that's what they're building. Because I don't just want one. I want a dynasty that competes every year. Because I think that team, if you tell me the Lions are going to be Super Bowl competitive for the next 5 to 7 years, I feel comfortable they're going to get at least one. They might get more, right? But the idea that now they've operated a certain way for 3 years, and we've watched it, and we've seen it, and now they're just going to shift gears and do something totally different, that's fan think. That's sports talk radio guy wanting you to call his show. That's not our executive. That's not the 2023 executive of the year. It's just not how Brad Holmes has done business, right? And then we have 3 years of data. That's how I know that's on him. Because, he actually had a press conference a week ago, and he said it. He said it, right? That's not how he's going to do business. That's not how he's done business. And my brothers join me. Good to see you, bro. We'll get to the receivers. Interactive podcast, by the way, in case you've never listened. If you say something and my brother will say stuff, I will interact. It's a whole lot of me. So if you got something good to say, type it in there. I'll talk about it. Brad Holmes just had a press conference, and he more or less said, we're going to keep doing what we're doing. And I love it. Why? Because it's working. It's working. So if you think some dude on the radio is smarter than Brad Holmes, that's cool. You keep listening to him. You keep getting excited and upset and keep sitting on hold for 20 minutes to tell him how great he is. But free agency is not going to be splashy. I'm about to disappoint my brother, who I love, because we're not signing Mike Evans and we're not signing T. Higgins. And I'm going to tell you why. But when they think about it, and they go, oh, what, the 49ers went all in and traded for McCaffrey last year. And they went all in and signed Chase Young this year because they were going for it. That's what a real organization does. Okay, that's all great, except they didn't win the Super Bowl. So did it matter? Did it matter if they didn't win the Super Bowl? I don't think so, because I think Chase is not free and they may or may not re-sign him. I don't know. I want a team that's Super Bowl competitive for the next 5 to 7 years. And that's what I see him building. That's what I see Brad Holmes building. So if you think sell out to get one Super Bowl is the right answer, then we just don't agree, and you ain't going to like the rest of this podcast. I say stick to the plan because it's working. So from a high level, how they do it, keep doing what you're doing is my answer to that question. So, all right, let's move forward and start talking about free agents. So to do that, you got to understand how the salary cap works. And if you're listening to this podcast, I'm assuming you do. I'm not going to sit here and act all condescending and try and teach you about the salary cap. You probably get what the salary cap is. So the reality is that it's not just about this year. Penei Sewell's coming up. You're going to sign Penei Sewell next year, and you're going to make him one of the 2 or 3 highest paid tackles in the league. You have to, right? St. Brown's coming up. You might sign Amara St. Brown this year, right? I think that he's going to come in around 24, 25 million. There's reports out there already. St. Brown's going to get 25 a year. And I don't really do the numbers. Well, yeah, I can. So the ones I know are Tyreek Hill makes 30. I think he's the top paid receiver in the league. I think Devontae is around 28. Cooper Kupp's 27-ish, right? And you got AJ Brown, Stephon Diggs, maybe DK. They're all in around 24, 25. That's where St. Brown's coming in. You can agree or not. I don't know if that matters. I'm just stating that next year you got to sign Penei. Probably this offseason, you're going to extend St. Brown to numbers that are significantly different than what they have done. That's cap money. So when people are out there saying, oh, the Lions have $55 million in cap space or X number of dollars in cap space, you got to re-sign St. Brown probably in the next 2 months. And you're going to have to re-sign Penei next year. You have to think about those things when you're doing these signings, right? So while I understand my brother's sentiment, we can't go give Mike Evans $25 million unless you're done with St. Brown, because you can't put that kind of money in that position. You just can't. So now if you tell me you'd rather have a, I don't know, 32 or 33-ish Mike Evans than a 25, 24, 25 St. Brown, okay, you can do that. You can do that. The Lions aren't going to do that. I mean, that's what it is. The $25 million has to go somewhere. And if you want to give it to Evans or give T. Higgins 18 or 20, because that's what it's going to take to get Evans or T. Higgins, you're saying you're done with Amon-Ra St. Brown because you cannot do both of those. That's all I'm saying. You can make whatever decision you want. You can't do them both. So I think that thinking about your own free agents is the theme of my free agency philosophy. Bring the band back together. That's not cute. That's not sexy. It's not popular. But your team was a half away from going to the Super Bowl. So bring back the band is where I'm at. There will be some additions. There'll be some stuff. Like their list of actual free agents, nothing scares me, right? I can run down the list. Sudfeld, third string quarterback, don't care, right? Josh Reynolds, Donovan Peoples-Jones. I'm going to get to them in a minute. You got backup tight ends. The ones that matter to me it's the guard position. The guard position is the tricky thing. And it's way more complicated than people think. So somebody's going to offer Jonah Jackson 14, 15 million a year. He's good. He's good. He and Glasgow are both up, right? They're both free agents, right? So the philosophy now is about the guard position, and it's even trickier than that because as much as I love Frank Ragnow, he's an All-Pro. Frank, the clock is ticking on Frank Ragnow. My opinion is you re-sign Glasgow. Why? Because he can move over to center if you need him to. I think Owasika is restricted, so you can tender him and bring him back if you like Owasika. Kobe Sorsdahl might be getting better. So I think you sign Glasgow. If Jonah doesn't get crazy money or Jonah wants to take the discount and stay and it fits within the parameters that you have, cool. The offensive line is the whole thing to all of this. I've said in previous podcasts, the most important player on this team, not the best, probably not the highest paid, the most important player on this football team is Frank Ragnow, right? And we see that when he's out. So my philosophy on free agents, I'm fine. Vitae, gone. Romeo, it was cool, but I'm not mad at anybody. Charles Harris, they could go. Will Harris, you can go. We got to address kicker. Michael Badgley could go. I don't know how I feel about Gardner Johnson yet. I don't know because I just didn't see him play enough. If he'll take the right money, he can come back. The skipper's got to come back. Jalen Reeves-Maybin is an all-star on special. He's got to come back. Long snapper. I don't care which one. You got to have a long snapper. You take care of that stuff. That's just housekeeping stuff. That's staples. That's butter and milk, right? The shopping starts at guard. No, it starts other places, but guard's one of them. Do you sign Glasgow, draft a guard? Because there's a kid, I want to say he's out of Washington, that can play both guard and center. Might be worthy of the 29th pick. Is that the philosophy? Do you give Jonah Jackson the bag and Glasgow and say, we're not going to let our offensive line fall apart? That's another philosophy. You can do that. Maybe that makes sense. Guard is key. Guard is, in terms of the sign your own in-house, take care of stuff, guard is the key. And like I said, Owasika is an exclusive rights free agent. So like James Houston, I don't think they can sign. I think you tender them and they're yours. There's some restricted guys, but that's Brock Wright, who I would bring back, the kick returner, Dorsey, backup corner kick returner. I like Khalil Dorsey. He's multi, right? He can play special teams, return kicks. He's your third, fourth, fifth, sixth type of cornerback. Cool. And Benito Jones, who I liked. I hope they bring back Benito Jones, right? But in terms of their own free agency, it's not that hard. There's a degree of bring the band back. We're going to get to Peoples Jones and Josh Reynolds in a minute. But so my philosophy is the guard thing is where the key is. If they let Jonah go, the draft podcast in a month or so, I'm going to be talking about guards. I'm going to be dropping guards, especially guards that can play center, because I wish no ill will on anybody. Certainly not my favorite center in the National Football. Who has a favorite center? Yeah, he's my center. Frank's days are numbered. That's a tough job. Takes a toll on the body. There were rumors he was going to retire this year. You need to think about the future and what does the center position look like in 2 years? Because the window will still be open in 2 years. And if you lose Frank without any real seamless transition, that's going to hurt. You can't do that. So guard is the priority in terms of bringing people back. If you bring back Jonah, cool. If you don't, we're going to talk. You got to bring back one of them. I lean toward Glasgow because he'll be more affordable and he plays guard and center. I like Jonah. And if the number's right, I would bring him back. So outside of your own building, what do? This is my order. And I think my brother and I are aligned, and most people are aligned. It might shift a little. I start edge rusher, corner, guard, wide receiver. And then best football player. I don't care after that. So whether this is signing people or free or draft, that's the order. You got to address the edge. You got to address cornerback one, CB1, not just a corner. You got to improve your corner. The cornerback room's got to get better. I was a Cam Sutton guy for about 14 games. And then something happened. And while my brother never liked Cam Sutton and my friend Jeff told me Cam Sutton was garbage, I always liked Cam Sutton. And it doesn't matter because he's under contract for 2 more years. But if Cam Sutton's your CB2 because you've acquired a real CB1, do we like Cam Sutton more then, right? So let's go in my order. Let's talk edge rushers. I'm not going to talk about Chris Houston because I think Kansas City is never going to let him hit the market. But if he hits the market, that's a big splash move. I wouldn't expect them to do it. It's going to take a lot of money, right? A ton of money. And that's important. We can't just act like money's not a thing. The salary cap is real, despite people saying, oh, you can always manipulate the cap. You can mortgage your future, right? And if you draft as well as Brad Holmes, maybe you get away with it. The salary cap's real. It's not you have to respect it, especially if, like I've established, you're trying to build a sustainable window. So I'm talking about 1 year, sell out to go for the Super Bowl, which is what your favorite sports talk radio guy wants you to do, versus open a 5-year window to compete for multiple Super Bowls, which is what I'm thinking. And if you don't agree with that, cool, I get it. So if Chris Houston becomes a real possibility, when we get to the free agent pod, we will know that the Chiefs didn't franchise him, or the Chiefs intend to let him explore the market, because they have a corner and they might have to make a decision one or the other between him and L'Jarius Sneed. I don't know. But right now I don't know if they'll let him hit the market. And even if he did, that'd be the pipe dream guy. That's the top of the line pipe dream guy. So let's talk about things that I think are even possible. Not that I think they would happen, but they're possible. So first guy is Danielle Hunter, right, of Minnesota. Danielle Hunter's 30-ish. All the ages are ish. I'm kind of guessing from memory. So 30-ish. But the market value for Danielle Hunter is going to start around $20 million a year. That's just what it is. But the comps, contractually are going to be TJ Watt and Joey Bosa. They're the league from a market value standpoint compares him to those guys. So what does that mean? That means 4 years, 80 plus million. We're going to talk about the salary cap. That's what free agency is about. Are you ready to give 4 years and 80 plus million to an edge rusher, knowing that in 2 years, you got to pay Hutch after you pay Panay, or after you pay St. Brown? Well, after you pay Goff, right? This is where we're at now. This is what good teams have to deal with. You got to pay Goff. You got to pay St. Brown. You got to pay Panay. Then you're going to have to pay Hutch. J-Mo is in there somewhere, depending on what you think. Then right after that, you got to pay Laporta and Gibbs and probably Branch. What? So you got to understand, all these things you're talking about doing now, the selling out, the all-in BS that they're talking on the radio, it affects all those things. So if you want to go cut Danielle Hunter a check for 4 years and 80 million, go down the list of guys I just mentioned and say goodbye to somebody, because they won't be here in 2 years. You can't. It just doesn't work that way, right? Now, I like Danielle Hunter as a player, and if you can front load contracts or back load contracts, and that's what's going to happen, right? When they extend Goff and accept the reality that they're going to extend Goff, because they are, the contract will be structured to give them room to sign St. Brown, because you can do things with bonuses and spreading them out. That'll be the point. Signing Goff will probably help your salary cap situation, right? That's a good one. But if we're going to play that game and just go pipe dream, my pipe dream is Josh Allen, right? But Josh Allen's going to cost you 25. Right? Josh Allen's 26 years old, the Jacksonville edge rusher, right? He's the same kind of comp. He's TJ Watt. He's Joey Bosa. He can have that impact. Understand, you're probably saying you don't intend to sign Hutch to a second contract if you do that. There's no way around that. And if you don't care, you're like, screw it, I'll just sign him to 1 year and $25 million. If you're Josh Allen, why are you going to sign a 1 year deal when you just hit the free agent market? Don't think you can do that, because it doesn't work. Josh Allen has an agent. His agent's going to want 5 years and $125 million. That's where they're going to start. 5 years, 120, because that's how it works. You don't get Josh Allen for 1 year and $23 million. So it's not how it works. So Josh Allen's going to come in wanting 5 years and 125, and a bunch of that's going to be a big old signing bonus. And if you want to do that, it's cool. The message you send is, we don't intend to re-sign Hutch, because in 2 years, Hutch is going to want similar, and you can't put $50 million into one position group. The salary cap doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. So these easy sports talk radio decisions, go get this guy, go get that guy, all those decisions have ramifications for this year and next and next and next. And if you don't care about 2025 and you just want to sell out to win a Super Bowl in 24, you can do some of this stuff I'm talking about. Next guy is Chase Young, 25 years old. Chase Young's number is going to be lower than the guys I just talked about. His comp is really more to Max Crosby, maybe Nick Bosa, right? But he's going to come in at 15, 16 million per, right? So he's going to want 5 years and 100, 110, 115, maybe more than that. His number might come in closer to Danielle Hunter. Right? He's not going to just sit and take a 1-year deal because he wants to play for the Lions. That's not how that's going to work. Not with these guys. That 25-year-old edge rusher is going to want a 5-year deal with a big old signing bonus, and it's going to be 9 figures. Again, if you sign a young pass rusher to a multi-year deal, you are telling Aiden Hutchinson's agent, you're telling the fans, Aiden Hutchinson will not sign a second contract in Detroit because the logistics don't work. So my point of those was like, I just don't know if those work, right? I actually like Brian Burns. If you're going to do something crazy, that's my crazy guy. He's 25. I like him, but the numbers are similar. He's in that same range. All those guys are going to get 9-figure, 5-year deals. That's the way it's going to work. Somebody's going to cut those guys those checks. So let's talk real, right? Now that we pipe dream Josh Allen, Chase Young, Brian Burns, Danielle Hunter is probably doable, especially if you could do maybe 3 years, because I think he's 30. But the others are probably just pipe dreams. So let's talk realistic. What can we actually do? And I know you're not going to love these, and it's cool. I get that. I'm just trying to share what I think is more consistent with what the Lions have done. If you like names, Jadeveon Clowney is only 31, still playing pretty good football. His number is going to be around 8 per. You can sign him for 2 years and 16. That is something you could do. Why? Because in 2 years, that $8 million is gone when you're ready to re-sign Hutch. You know, there's a 25-year-old guy in Buffalo named AJ Epineza, who I like to draft. I like that to draft. He's going to be in the 6.5 range. He will help. He would be an improvement. He would make their defensive line better. You could probably get him for 3 and 20, 3 and 21, somewhere in the high 6, low 7 range. That would be an upgrade. That would be a help. Right? That's the kind of thing they're going to do. You don't have to like it. That's what they're going to do, though. And I'm not going to have a problem with it because I have a degree of trust in what Brad Holmes does with respect to scouting, pro scouting and college scouting. And I have a tremendous amount of respect for the culture that Dan Campbell has built and those two guys together and their ability to identify players that fit the culture. So as much as we would like to talk Brian Burns or Chase Young or even Danielle Hunter, I would expect them to maybe shoot for, maybe think about Clowney. And all this assumes scheme fit, which I don't really know. But something like a AJ Epineza, 2 years and 13 million to get a little better is what I think you're going to see. I think they're going to try and get a little better in 4 or 5 spots because they were 1/2 away from going to the Super Bowl, and they don't think they need to make the major splash moves. And there's something called organic growth. I think they think James Houston is still going to get better. I think they think that Brian Branch is going to get better. They think that Sam Laporta and Jahmyr Gibbs are going to get better. They could be right. What if Owasika gets better in the offseason and left guard's not a problem, right? I think they believe in draft and develop. They believe in organic growth. I don't think you're going to see some big splash signing at edge rusher, largely because their edge rusher number 1 is already on the roster, and you're going to have to pay him. So you can't go give Brian Burns 5 years, 140 million, 150. Can't do it. Can't do it. Right? You can't go give Chase Young $120 million because then you're getting rid of Hutch. It just doesn't work. All right. So my second position is corner. Let's talk corner. So like I said, I was a Cam Sutton guy. I've come to realize I think Cam Sutton could be a really good cornerback too. I need a CB1. This is where I want the money to go. This is where I want the money to go. Right? This is where I want the splash move. I think Houston, a healthy James Houston helps your pass rush. I think you can plug in a Clowney would help. I think an Epineza would help. I think there are guys out there who can help the front. I want to put the money in the back end. And I think that the talent deficiency, and that's not a disrespect to say Kendall Vildor. Guy tried, right? You have to get a CB1 so you can shift Cam Sutton to CB2. The slot is locked down with Brian Branch. I think you're fine at safety. Depth is always a problem everywhere, so no big deal. But do you trade for a corner or do you sign a corner? So the trade thing, I obviously lean away from for obvious reasons. You have to give up something. And so a guy like a Jair Alexander, right? I heard that this week. I hate that for a lot of reasons. One, I don't know if he's a fit. He had some issues in Green Bay just around the kind of dude he is. And I don't know. I'm not suggesting that, but they had issues with some of that. Two, the cost, because he is a CB1. You're going to have to give up a lot to get him. And then I think his base is only around 7, but his cap hit is in excess of 20 million. Now there's an out. I think it's 3 years left on the contract, but you can get out after 1. That's a lot of money. So yeah, if you can rip up that deal he signed with Green Bay and sign him to sign a new deal, and the cost to get him isn't that bad. And there are those people who just make up stuff in their mind and think Green Bay wants to give him away. I don't think so. I think Green Bay knows his value, and it would take a lot to get him. I don't know that would be fiscally responsible. And so my brother just made a good call. Like that my first guy I'm going to go to is Kendall Fuller. That's the dude I like, right? I think his number is probably 15 to 17. He's 29 years old. I think Kendall Fuller comes in and fits. We're in lockstep. He fits what I think they need. He fits what I would like. I would have no problem giving him a 3-year deal and bringing him in right now. I think you improve greatly. But there are other guys that, like L'Jarius Sneed is the pipe dream dude, right? Sneed's going to get really good money. It's going to take probably $3 and $50 to get L'Jarius Sneed, something in there. He's probably worth it. I think Jalen Johnson of the Bears, similar type numbers. It's going to take you might have to sign him to 5 years because I think he's younger, right? Those are the pipe dream guys. I do not think the Lions will do that. I think those are big splashy moves. I think they're fiscally irresponsible, and Brad Holmes doesn't do business that way. Now, if those guys were coming in good numbers, cool. I love the Kendall Fuller. If you told me to pick one, that's mine. Like Adoree Jackson is only 28. You might get him around 12 or 13. I think you can get him for a decent number, right? If you like him, right? If that's a guy you can live with, I like it. So I think 4 and 64 could get it done, something like that. If you want to sign a 28-year-old to a 4-year deal, but Cam Sutton's number is reasonable. He'll come off the books. I think Kendall Fuller, I would sign to the longest deal. Given a choice, I'd give him 4 years, and I feel really comfortable about the back end of that defense. But the pipe dream stuff, you're going to hear people say, "Oh, Jalen Johnson this and L'Jarius Sneed." I don't know if Sneed hits the market, but if he does, it's not a bad idea, right? So, but my choice is Kendall Fuller. So I talked about guard already. I think that you got to address that in the draft, and we'll talk more about guard in the draft podcast later. So I'm going to jump right to wide receiver. Right? And again, I'm about to let my brother down, but that's okay. Here's the thing about the wide receiver position that I think we have to understand, and a lot of people miss out. We accept that Amon-Ra St. Brown is our receiver one. I'm not going to use wide receiver because I don't think that's the kind of offense we run. That's the kind of scheme that Ben Johnson has. So I'm just going receiver. Here's the progression. And you don't have to like this, by the way, but I think it's accurate. St. Brown is receiver 1, period. Sam Laporta is receiver 2. I think 3 and 4 is some combination. I want it to be some combination of Jahmyr Gibbs and JMO. We all know how I feel about JMO's usage this year. It was not nearly enough, right? I want JMO to be 3 and Gibbs to be 4. And I think if you view it that way, and if the offense executes it that way, you will realize we don't have a huge need at wide receiver. I don't agree with the concept that we have a huge need at wide receiver where we would go out and call Tampa about Mike Evans. We don't call Tampa. I think it's free. Mike Evans is getting north of 25. And just like I talked about why you can't sign Brian Burns or Chase Young because Hutch is coming up. It's the same reason you can't sign Mike Evans for north of 25. You can't get Pittman Jr. because he's going to be 22, 23. You can't sign T. Higgins because he's in the 20 range. You can't do those because you can't put that money in that room unless you're saying, St. Brown, play on the last year of your contract. Thanks for your service. We'll see you later. That's the message you're sending because you can't put $50 million in one room. The cap doesn't allow it. You're going to pay your quarterback, like it or not. You're going to pay your right tackle, like it or not. Right? And ultimately, that Sewell's money might end up being a goodbye to Decker, right? There are guys that fit the mold, though. And Michael Gallup's not a bad choice. My brother just threw out Michael Gallup. But those guys are out there. Darnell Mooney's and Kendrick Bourne's. Those guys are out there. My real thought on this is simple. The two best options are already in the building. They're sitting in the basement playing PlayStation. It's Josh Reynolds and Donovan Peoples-Jones. Those are the two. You're looking for a guy who's only going to catch 30 balls, 35 balls a year because he's receiver 5. We're talking about receiver. You can draft receiver 5. Maybe the kid they drafted late last year, Antoine Green, is better than we know, and he can grow into a receiver 5. You're talking about receiver 5 because Khalif's still on the roster. He's going to catch 25 passes, right? He's going to return kicks. He's going to back up St. Brown in a slot. We're talking about receiver 5, right? To me, Josh Reynolds, again, I agree. Josh Reynolds is the answer. Just bring Josh Reynolds back. I'm good with that. I'm not mad about the 2 drops in the championship game. That dude had 60 targets last year, only dropped 2 passes. I'm not mad about that. You get better in the receiver room through organic growth. Gibbs gets better. Laporta gets better. Jamo gets better. You don't add to that room. That room gets better organically, in my opinion. That's how the wide receiver room gets better. Josh Reynolds if you can sign them both back, cool. That big body dude that does what Josh Reynolds did very, very, very well all year. He has a rapport with Goff, and I think he fits, and I think they like him. I think them getting him his bonus the last game of the regular season by throwing like 5 straight passes to them speaks to how the team feels about Josh Reynolds. I don't think there's a receiver issue. If you draft a receiver in the 4th round, cool. If he fits some mold, he's got the size. I'm fine with that. I don't sign a free agent wide receiver. I wouldn't even consider talking about the Mike Evanses, the Pittman Jr. or T. Higgins. Nope. Those numbers are too big, and you got to pay St. Brown. Now, unless you just don't think St. Brown's good, or you don't want St. Brown, the all-pro, not Pro Bowler, the all-pro receiver that's already on your roster. Now, your priority is pay St. Brown, bring back Reynolds and Peoples-Jones. I don't think you have a real receiving problem. I don't. So now we got to get to the fun. Let's get to it. We got to pay our quarterback. I don't want to do the whole thing. But wait, maybe. I said weeks ago on a podcast, just get yourself ready. They're going to put a number in front of them. And there are people who think they know what the number should be. They're comfortable with a certain number, this, that, the other. Okay. Here are a couple of things you have to accept about how contracts work in the NFL, especially at quarterback. It's next man up. He's going to get a number that you're not going to like because it's his turn. He's going to end up being a top 6 or 7 paid quarterback in the next few weeks. And there are going to be people who are going to say and suggest that's too much money for Jared Goff. Okay, great. I would say, how are you getting better at quarterback? Right? And if you say the name Hendon Hooker, I don't want to talk to you. Just get away from me. You're not smart, right? Because you would be able to look me in the face and tell me that Hendon Hooker, who you know nothing about at the NFL level, nothing about, he hasn't taken a snap. You are 100% sure he will be a better NFL quarterback in 2024 than Jared Goff. 29-year-old Jared Goff, been to a Super Bowl, close to another. We know what Jared Goff is. I'm not even going to go statistical, geeky, advanced metrics. You're going to tell me you know Hendon Hooker is better than Jared Goff? Why? Because you think he can run? And you're one of my quarterback needs to run. I'm still looking for all these running quarterbacks that are winning Super Bowls. And don't give me Mahomes, because Mahomes isn't a running quarterback. He's okay. He can do that. Mahomes is winning Super Bowls because he might be the greatest passer of all time. It's not his feet that's winning Mahomes Super Bowls. So fine, you fall in love with Lamar scrambling around running. Fall in love with Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen. They haven't won anything, right? That position is about executing the offense. And fundamentally, it's passing accuracy. And Jared Goff's just really, really good. And after you name those 4 or 5 guys, Joe Burrow's not some great runner. Justin Herbert's not some great runner. I don't know what this is about. I got to have a quarterback that can run. Now I know because my brother's already told me there was a play in that game where he should have been able to scramble and get to 2 yards. And you're right. You're right. That's not who he is, though. So I'm not mad about him not doing something that he doesn't do. And we know he can't do. That don't make sense to me, right? But I'm done with the whole got to have a running quarterback because the data doesn't support that. Tom Brady wasn't a running quarterback. I wouldn't consider Patrick Mahomes can move his feet and extend plays in the pocket. It's not a running quarterback. Aaron Rodgers wasn't a running quarterback. I don't get this obsession with the running quarterback because the data doesn't suggest those quarterbacks are significantly more successful than immobile quarterback. Our immobile, statuesque quarterback just got us a half away from the Super Bowl. And I'm listening to idiots on the radio this week saying, trade him, start Hendon Hooker. I don't know how that person, I don't know why I'm mad at that person. They do what they do. It's all good. My feeling on that is, look, just accept it, right? We're going to re-sign Goff, right? And it's going to be significant. So just accept it. It's going to be 3 years, 145, maybe 4 years, close to 200 million, depending on whether they tear up the year that's remaining. And Brad Holmes is smart enough, and they got a group of people in that building who understand the cap, who get, we have to re-sign St. Brown. We've got to re-sign Panay. Right after that, Hutch is going to come up, and right after that, it's going to be the Laporta Gibbs group. That's how it works. When you're a good team, that's how it works. You can sign Goff to an extension that helps you salary cap wise. Whether that means you front load it to get relief when it's time to pay Panay, and on the back end of it when you're paying Hutch and Gibbs and those other guys, or just smoothing out signing bonus cap wise. The people who sitting around saying, let Goff go because Hendon Hooker's our future. Now, the best world is that Hendon Hooker is a really good backup for 3 more years. And if he's really good, take the job. Take the job. But there's no evidence because he's literally taken 0 snaps. There's no evidence that Hendon Hooker is ready to be an NFL quarterback, much less he's at or near Jared Goff's level. So I cannot continue to have the conversation about the quarterback position. I've been saying it for 2 years. I said it in detail 6-8 weeks ago. It's 3 years, 140, 150. It's 4 years, 200 million. That's what it is. And he's 29. He's playing the best football of his career. And he was not the reason we didn't go to the Super Bowl. He was not. He played well enough to take us to a Super Bowl. And if he takes us to the Super Bowl, win or lose, I don't know that we're having this conversation. I'm stunned that there are people still willing to have this conversation about Jared Goff, which is the reason this podcast is happening. I didn't intend to even do a podcast today. I said, I'm going to blow my Friday lunch hour because I listened to sports talk radio all week and they pissed me off. Now, the Justin Fields conversation is interesting. My brother brought that up. I think that goes to the running quarterback thing. I think that is just this opinion that Justin Fields is definitely better than Jared Goff. And I don't share it. I just don't. Justin Fields can run. And if your whole thing is, I want my quarterback to run, okay. There is no objective evidence that says running quarterbacks win more games than non-running quarterbacks. And just take Mahomes out. I don't consider him a running quarterback. And if you do, we just see it differently, right? He's got some escapability. Josh Allen's done well. He doesn't have any trophies. Well, Jalen Hurts got there, didn't win, and then fell off big time. Now, I think he was injured. So somebody's got to convince me on this running quarterback conversation because I still just don't get it. And I'm not trying to be that dude. I'm not trying to be I know it all. I look at data. I'm a data dude. That's what I do for a living. That's how I make most decisions and form almost all my opinions. What does the data say? The data doesn't tell me that running quarterbacks are inherently more prone to win football games. Are they more fun to watch? Are they good for your fantasy team? Sure. But I challenge you to name 7 quarterbacks over the last 2 years that have outperformed Jared Goff. And if you say stuff like Justin Fields, okay, then we just see the game differently. Because in the last 2 years, Jared Goff's been a better quarterback than Justin Fields. And Jordan Love, cute, can move around, whatever, has some success the second half of this year. Great, you can do that. I'll take the 29-year-old who's been to the Super Bowl, who got us really close this year, who's playing the best football of his career, who by all accounts is a good dude, respected in the locker room. I'll take that dude. You go take. I don't know what Justin Fields is. Part of that's the Bears' fault, not him, because I actually think he's a good player. But the automatic notion that he can scramble or he's a running quarterback, so that makes him better equipped to win games, the data doesn't support that shit. I'm sorry. It just doesn't. That's a popular opinion supported by absolutely zero data. It just is. Because if you take out Mahomes, tell me that scrambling running quarterback that's just winning Super Bowls. I don't know who that guy is. I don't. Nick Foles wasn't a scrambler in Philly. Aaron Rodgers not a scrambler. Matthew Stafford. And you know I love number 9. Matthew Stafford's not a running quarterback. He won a ring a couple years ago. I don't even think Mahomes is a running quarterback. So we need to let go of this ridiculous notion that running quarterbacks are better than non-running, immobile quarterbacks. Because our quarterback's immobile. He'll be the first one to tell you. All he does is throw the ball pretty accurately, complete a lot of passes, and win a shit ton of games the last 2 years. That's all he's done the last 2 years. It's just that. Win games, take us to the NFC Championship game, rate very highly in completion percentage and play action percentage, all the metrics that matter to winning. But he can't run. You know who can run? David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, J-Mo. I don't need my quarterback to run. I don't even want my quarterback to run. I think it takes years off their life. They take hits they shouldn't take. I don't want that. Give me a top 3 offensive line and a fucking statue back there. I don't care. I'm tired of the Goff talk. It's nonsense. We don't need to do anything except put an extension in front of that man and get him signed. And Hendon Hooker can show up every day, get better every day in practice. And if he's as good as everybody thinks he is, take the job. Or somebody will call us and say, what do you want for Hendon Hooker? Or we just have a solid backup for the next 3 years. And if, God forbid, something happened to Goff, he can step in and do his job, which is win football games. But this idea that Hendon Hooker's ready, we got Hendon Hooker, we don't need Goff anymore. I can't handle that stuff. I'm sorry, I can't. I'm sorry about the language. I can't handle that. That the Goff conversation was cute 2 years ago, didn't make sense a year ago. It's absurd now. It's downright absurd. So my high level is still the same. Stick to the plan. What they're doing is right. So put a contract in front of Goff that relieves your cap. Get St. Brown done, right? And then do some smart free agent signings. And there's some smart. Kendall Fuller would be great. I agree with my brother in that. That'd be a great upgrade at corner, right? You're not going to go crazy. And there are guys like Clowney. I wouldn't have a problem with that. I think he makes your front better. Or even an Epineza, 25-year-old guy you can get for $7 to $8 million. I like those kinds of signings a lot more. I just do. I don't think you're going to get Daniil Hunter. I don't think you're going to get Chase Young or Brian Burns or Josh Allen. I just don't think you're going to. And I don't think you want to. I don't think that's what it is. I think you rely on organic growth. You say to yourself, in the room, we can make Jack Campbell better. We can make Brian Branch better. We expect Brian Branch to be better as a second-year player than as a rookie. That's not ridiculous. We expect Campbell to be better. We expect guys like Pascal and Houston to get better. Why wouldn't we expect them to be better? Right? We expect Laporta and Gibbs to be better. Organic growth is a real thing. You can ignore it if you want. I think you do some smart signings. Guard is key. Corner is the other key, right? Guard is the thing to me. I'm worried about Frank. So it's not even guard in 24. I need a guard center who can slide over and be a full-time center, right? I like Osika did a decent job. Can he get better? Sure. So I think we're right there, right? We're trying to move from very good to great. One half of better football. Quarterback's not the problem. Sorry. So I think bring the band back, add a couple pieces. And I know other teams are going to get better. San Francisco is going to be better. Green Bay is going to be better. Philadelphia might bounce back and be better. Cool. We will be better too. Organically, we'll be better. And they'll add a couple of smart pieces, some depth stuff. If you want to bring back CJ and he'll take the right money that doesn't mess up our cap, cool. I think you bring back Graham Glasgow. That's the one. I think you bring back Reynolds and Peoples-Jones. They fit the culture. We know who they are. They know the system. They fit size-wise what we need. And it's receiver 5. They sign Mike Evans to be receiver 5. I'm not doing that. So smart, put the band back together stuff. Now you got to start paying the good guys you have. And that's a shift for us. We're used to having to go out and acquire talent from somewhere else. The reality is the most important signings are already in the building. And it is Goff, it's St. Brown, it's one of the guards. Glasgow is my preference. And then next year, it's going to be Sewell, and then it's going to be Hutch, and then it's going to be Gibbs and Laporta. And if we start thinking in a 3 to 5 year window, instead of sell out, do whatever it takes to win next year, you will be more comfortable. You will be less disappointed. Because if you keep listening to that jackass on the radio, he's going to get you all excited, and they're not going to do any of the stuff he's talking about this year. And then you'll be all pissed off, and he'll be thrilled because you'll be calling the radio, telling him how pissed off you are. That's how that works. So that's my thoughts on the offseason. I think it was a good season. I think there's no reason we shouldn't expect them to be better next year. Now, it's tough when you've won 12 games. What does better look like? I don't think they're going to go 16-1, right? Can they do 14-3? Sure. There's a case to be made. They should have been 14-3 this year, right? You get incrementally better. You can get to, you know what 14-3 means? It means you're hosting the NFC Championship game. That's what it means. If you're better and you're hosting that game, I'm going to be talking about the Super Bowl every week, right? It means you don't have that slip up in Baltimore and get smoked. It means you don't drop the Thanksgiving game to Green Bay, right? Those are the things that come when you get better. So incrementally get better. You don't need to go out and make a bunch of signings. You got too many dudes coming up that you need to pay. And that's just as important. So I think there's a window here for this team. It's years. And keep doing what you're doing. You don't go from 3-13-1 to 12-5 and a half of football away from the Super Bowl because you don't know what you're doing. So keep it up is what I say. Appreciate you listening. Well, I appreciate most of you. There's some I don't really give a damn, but I appreciate you listening. Have a good weekend, a good day, and we'll be doing another free agent podcast strictly on guys that are signing probably in a couple weeks. So till then, take care.